Madam President, at the outset, on behalf of the Vietnamese delegation, may I extend our warmest congratulations to you, the third woman in the UN history elected as President of the General Assembly. I am confident that under your wise leadership, this 61st section will be crowned with success. I also wish to convey our high appreciation of the tremendous efforts undertaken and active contribution made by His Excellency Jan Eliasson during his presidency of the 60th section of the General Assembly. As His Excellency Kofi Annan's last term of duty as Secretary General of the United Nations is coming close, I wish, on behalf of the Vietnamese government, to express our high appreciation of his dedication and commitment to our organization. His visit to Vietnam last May laid another milestone in the history of the ever-growing Vietnam-UN cooperation relationship. Madam President, the 2005 World Summit lit up our hope for the achievements by the international community in the MDG set out by our leaders at the Millennium Summit of 2000. Regrettably, 1 year has elapsed, and the picture of the world I see today is one of so many paradoxes. Although the trend of peace, cooperation, and development continue to prevail, so do the unilateral use of force, the escalation of the regional and ethnic conflicts, as well as international terrorism. We have also seen serious hardships faced by developing countries under the pressure of globalization and inequality in international economic relations. Poverty, pandemic, drugs, transnational crimes pose even greater threats to hundreds of millions of people around the world. Against such a backdrop, in the view of the Vietnamese delegation, continued joint efforts to create a favorable environment for the achievement of the MDGs are even more imperative. We consider the theme chosen for this 61st section of the General Assembly, focusing on the global partnership for development, as highly relevant. Madam President, peace and social political stability are indispensable for development. In turn, positive economic development and improved living standards of the people help consolidate peace and stability in each region, each country, and the world as a whole. It is essential that countries work together to settle these differences and disputes through dialogues, abandon the use of force in the relations, and fully comply with the UN Charter and international law in order to build a peaceful and stable environment in the interest of all. I wish to reaffirm Vietnam's strong support for efforts to reach early peaceful settlement of international and regional conflicts and differences, including the nuclear issues on the Korean Peninsula and in Iran, and the crisis in the Middle East, where the recent hostilities in Lebanon, which caused heavy losses in life of innocent people and destruction of infrastructure of the country, serves as a typical example of harm brought about by unilateral actions. In this connection, I wish to state Vietnam's consistent policy to support the just struggle of the Palestinian people for their inalienable rights and call on all parties concerned to implement the UN Security Council resolution on the Middle East including Resolution 1701, and soon arrived at a fair and lasting solution for peace and stability in the region. Madam President, Vietnam is deeply concerned with surging terrorism in the world. We will continue to support joint efforts of the international community to combat terrorism on the basis of the fundamental principles of the UN Charter and international law, as well as respect for national sovereignty. The deep roots of terrorism, including poverty, inequality, injustice, must be eliminated. What should also be mentioned here, Madam President, is the unfortunate reality that in many cases, suppression of terrorist organizations, including ones against Vietnam, are being undertaken selectively with double standards. It is our view that such conduct may leave room for more international terrorist acts. Madam President, achievement in the science and technology, especially information technology and globalization, have brought about great opportunities for all countries. They also brought about the dark side of international economic relations. Widened development gap between the rich and the poor poses potential threats to world peace and security. In the outcome document of the 2005 World Summit, our leaders called for the establishment of a global partnership for development to enhance cooperation in all financial, trade, and investment areas, and called for increased assistance to developing countries, considering that such steps by the international community would contribute to establishing a favorable environment for the achievement of the MDGs. Such global partnership is yet to be seen, and we are concerned with increasing adverse impact of globalization. The failure of the Doha round, the strengthening of protectionism in a number of developed countries, fluctuating prices of oil and gold are causing more and more difficulties for developing nations in their effort to achieve their MDGs. A typical example of this situation is the anti-dumping tariff imposed on Vietnam, catfish, shrimp in the past years, and foodware at present, which is affecting the life of millions of poor people. This measure goes counter to WTO rules and the spirit of trade liberalization pursued by member states. It should be pointed out that developing nations' increased integration in the world economy is indeed an important element ensuring the achievement of the MDGs. Developing countries should be supported and assisted to join the WTO as early as possible. Non-tariff barriers under disguises such as hygiene and safety standards, among others, should be removed to facilitate the access to the developed economies market. We have on many occasions expressed our view that our terms embargo and sanctions are completely obsolete policy. We once again call for an early lifting of the unilateral economic and trade embargo against Cuba. Vietnam welcomed the fact that a number of countries have set up roadmaps to allocate 0.7% of GNP to ODA without any conditions. Technology transfer, capacity building, and human resource development should be further promoted. We welcome initiatives to settle the debts of poor countries. The solution outlined in the Monterrey Consensus and the recent efforts of the international community towards this end. The United Nations should work out, especially at national level, measures to further incorporate the MDGs in the implementation of global commitments undertaken during the past decade in the areas concerning women, children, population, development, HIV/AIDS prevention, housing, environment, and social development. Madam President, Vietnam supports efforts to strengthen multilateral mechanism in which the UN should play a central role, with a view to building and ensuring a peaceful and trade and stable environment in the world. The United Nations should be reformed to improve its effectiveness, democratization, and modes of cooperation on the basis of the fundamental principles enshrined in its charter. While welcoming initiatives successes in the UN reform process, such as the establishment of the Human Rights Council and the Peace-Building Commission, we realize that much remains to be done. Measures are needed to consolidate the central role and power of the General Assembly. Security Council should be reformed in both its composition and methods of work to ensure that it really represents the concerns and interests of all UN members as stipulated in the Charter. Madam President, Vietnam has made remarkable progress in implementing the MDGs, and we are well in a position to meet the 2015 deadline. Based on our own experience, we believe that each country should first and foremost strive to create and maintain a peaceful environment for development, mobilize the broad participation by the people of all walks of life in poverty reduction efforts, and reserve preferential treatment to the poor, vulnerable groups, and people living in remote and difficult areas, with a view to helping them catch up with the majority. Furthermore, effective prevention of natural disasters and mitigation of their consequences are crucial factors. Madam President, to create a peaceful environment for national development, Vietnam will continue with its foreign policy of sovereign independence, peace, cooperation, and development. We continue to be a friend and reliable partner of all countries in the international community striving for peace and cooperation. And we will continue to actively participate in regional and international cooperation. We are in the final stage leading to accession to the World Trade Organization. Vietnam is also running for non-permanent membership of the United Nations Security Council for the term 2008-2009. In pursuing our policy of international integration and in contributing to the common endeavors of the international community, we look forward to your continued support from all members of the United Nations. I thank you.